Namaste, beautiful yogis. Welcome to an intermediate to advanced Hatha yoga sequence. Today, we're going to focus on strong standing sequence, strong standing poses, inner thigh stretches, leg work, strong standing revolving poses, heart openers, headstands, quadriceps stretches, inner thigh stretches. The class is going to be strong, mostly leg work, less planks and wrist involvement. Let's come to the front of our mats. Feet are hip width apart. Bring your hands over your third eye and deepen your breath, taking slow, deep inhalations, followed by complete exhalations. Within the quiet space that we've created, let's set an intention for our practice today that will carry through the entire practice till the end and maybe through our day. Let's move with the intention to always honor our hearts, allowing them to be open, expressive, and giving. And with this intention, let's begin our practice. Come onto your knees and let's bring the hands in front of us, a few inches in front of us. Sit halfway back, extended puppy pose or modified child's pose. Feeling the stretch through your entire spine. Let your forehead be on the floor. Pressing the hips back towards the heels and just really breathe into your back. Cultivating Ujjayi breath, slowly inhaling through the nose, slowly exhaling through the nose. And let's look ahead of us, coming out of this. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, lower down, all the way onto your belly, and open. Cobra pose, extending the tailbone down. Press the space between your collarbones, open. Exhale, lower down, and let's go back into downward facing dog. Pulling the belly in and up. Spread your fingers open, pressing into each and every knuckle. And you can walk in place here, side to side. Stretching one leg at a time. Breathe into the back of your legs. Drawing the navel in towards the spine. Gazing at the tip of your nose. Keep your shoulders away from your ears. Great, let's walk the hands back towards the back of the mat, our feet. And take a forward bend here, extending the crown of the head, the top of your head down. Look over to your left and to your right. And let's bring the hands over to the left side and over to the right side. And back to center. And walk them to the front of your mat, coming back to downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take your right leg up, roll the right hip on top of the left hip, bend your knee, and drop the foot behind you. And we're gonna draw circles with the right knee here. Drawing slow circles, exploring the hip, feeling the hip, being aware of your hip, being aware of your limitations. Breathe into your limitations. Great, look ahead of you and step your right foot between your hands. Inhale, come up, warrior one. Extending the tailbone down, press into the outer edge of your left foot. Hands over the heart, take a little wider stance here and open into warrior two. Again, the tailbone is slightly extending down, lifting the arches of the feet, finding all four corners of each foot. And let's turn the right hand up, palm facing up, and walk the left hand down the left leg. Shoulders are relaxed. Inhale back to warrior two. Reach way ahead of you with your right hand and lower your right hand on the inside of your right foot. The left arm reaches all the way up and you can extend it towards the front of the room. Palm of the hand facing down to protect the shoulder. And let's bring both hands on the floor. Lifting the back heel straight up, bring your right hand up towards the ceiling. Left hand on the floor, twisting here. Keep your right hip back. Extend your right hand towards the front of the room and press your right hip back. Make sure your legs are working here and make sure your left leg is working here. Press into your back heel. Great. Bring both hands down on the floor. Slowly lower down onto your belly. Inhale. Upward facing dog or cobra. We're going to work with a lot of cobras today. And back into downward facing dog. Pull the belly in and up. Press your hips as high as you can. Lower your heels gently down. Inhale, left leg comes up. Roll the left hip on top of your right hip. Lifting the hip as high as you can, lifting the foot, bend the knee and lift through your knee as high as you can, dropping the foot behind you. Press equally into both hands and begin to draw circles with your left knee here. Slow circles, being aware and mindful of your body. And let's square the hips, look ahead of you. And step the left foot between the hands. Back heel on the floor. Come up. Warrior one. Hands all the way over the head. Working to square the hips here so that the right hip eventually comes forward. Spinning the right hip forward. Spinning the hip inward so it comes forward. Press into the outer edge of your right foot. And let's step a little wider here and open into warrior two. The hands are reaching actively away from each other. Left knee is facing or pointing directly forward. Left knee is pointing in the exact same direction your foot is pointed at. Don't allow your knee to come inward. And let's walk the right hand down the right leg. Lift your left hand up and over your head, revolving the warrior. Keep your knee bent. Coming out of this, reach way ahead of you and lower the left hand on the inside of the left foot, really lengthening both sides of the torso here. Pressing into the outer edge of the right foot. Reach with your right hand up and over the head and feel the space, the long line between your fingertips and your right foot. Great, let's bring both hands on the floor. Lift your back heel up towards the ceiling. And let's take the left hand up towards the ceiling, right hand on the floor. Pressing the left hip back. open the chest, drop the shoulders down, exhale, soften your belly. And let's reach way ahead of us. Palm of the hand facing down so that the shoulder is away from the ear. Great. Bring both hands on the floor and step back. Lower down onto your belly. Inhale, open cobra pose. Elbows are bent, keep them close to your rib cage. Roll the shoulders back and down. Lengthen the back of your neck. Tuck the tailbone under, finding space in the lower back. And lower your head down. Bend your knees and see if you can grab your feet here, your ankles. And open into bow pose. Dhanurasana. Flex your feet. You can keep it steady or you can rock back and forth. You can rock forth, hold it, rock back, hold it. Lower the legs down on the ground. You can hold your ankles, tuck your tailbone under. Release your hands on the floor. Release your feet, open, cobra. And you can tuck your toes under and go back into downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg comes up, roll the right hip on top of the left hip, and do a few knee circles again. Changing the direction, opening the hip, breathe. Look ahead of you and step your right foot between your hands. Inhale, come up, warrior two. Nice deep inhalations, deepen your warrior two. Sink a little deeper in your stance. Turn the right palm up and walk the left hand down the left leg. And here we're gonna wrap the left hand back and around to grab the inner thigh or the right hip. Inhale, coming out of this to warrior two. Reach way ahead of you and lower your right hand on the floor on the inside of the right foot. Either stay here or deepen your side angle by clasping behind your back. Bound side angle. Look up, look past your shoulder. And you can release one hand on the floor, one up towards the ceiling, and reach way ahead of you over your head, pressing into the outer edge of your left foot. Great, we're gonna bring that left hand somewhere in front of the right foot, coming into revolving half moon pose. Flex your left foot and point the toes or extend the toes down, all 5 toes, so that you're spinning your left hip down. And let's reach in front of us with the right hand. Bring both hands either over your heart or in front of your warrior tree. Great. Bend your right knee, step back, high lunge. Hands over the heart. And let's bring the left elbow on the outside of the right knee, really focusing on exhalation here. Press the back heel away from you and straight up towards the ceiling. Either stay here or you can release one hand down on the floor and one up towards the ceiling. Drop the shoulders down. Either stay here, or the third level is to bring the hands behind you and clasp. Peel your chest off of your right thigh. Press the back heel away from you, power up that leg. Working on exhalations, softening the belly. And you can slowly come out of this clasp and bring your right hand up and over your head towards the front of your room. Release the hand somewhere in front of your right foot, coming into half moon pose. Standing half moon pose, stacking the hips on top of each other here, shoulders on top of each other. Flex the foot, press the heel away from you, pull the toes in towards you. And you can bring both hands on the floor, lifting your left leg up into standing half splits. Either stay in standing half splits, or you can bend your left knee and grab your left foot with your right hand behind you. Keep your tailbone tucked under. Exhale, both hands on the floor, and prepare to take a small hop back into plank. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Back to Chaturanga, and exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, the left leg comes up. You can point the toes and bring the left hip on top of the right hip. Bend the knee, drop the foot behind you. Drawing a few circles. Reversing the direction of your circles here, just exploring the opposite movement. Move mindfully. And let's step the left foot between the hands. Inhale, come up, warrior two. Sink a little deeper in your warrior two. Relax the shoulders. Soften your gaze. Make sure your knees pointing directly forward. Soften the palms and the fingertips. Turn the left hand up, reaching way over your head. You can wrap your right hand back and around to grab the inner thigh. On the left side, if you can reach the thigh, you can grab your pants, your hip, or your back. Coming out of this, back to warrior two, reach way ahead of you, lower your left hand on the inside of the left foot. Side angle, extending the tailbone down. Open the chest. Either stay here or clasp behind. Bound side angle. Exhale, soften your belly and spin your ribcage open. Right ribcage spins open. And you can release your hands, reaching way over your head with your right hand. And let's lower the right hand somewhere in front of the left foot, revolving half moon pose. Flex your foot, press your toes down, pull your toes in, back in towards you, level the hips, open the chest. And let's reach over our heads. Warrior 3, either both hands way ahead of us or over the heart. Level the hips with the floor. Flex your foot. Strong lower back. And step back into high lunge. Hands over the heart. Bring your right elbow on the outside of the left knee. Look over your left shoulder. Exhale, soften the belly. Go a little deeper. You can extend one hand on the floor, one up towards the ceiling. Either stay here or clasp behind. Keep pressing the back heel away from you, distributing your weight between your front and your back leg. And coming out of this clasp, you can reach with your right hand up and over the head towards the front of the room. Left hand in front of the left foot. Right hip on top of the left hip. Half moon pose. Flex your foot. Pull your toes back in towards you. Working on lengthening the sides of the body. Relaxing the shoulders. Extending the tailbone slightly towards the heel. And let's bring both hands on the floor, standing half splits. Either hold half splits or you can bend your right knee and grab your right foot with your left hand. Great, both hands on the floor and prepare to take a small hop back into plank or chaturanga. Chaturanga, upward facing dog. Back to chaturanga. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg comes up, roll the right hip on top of the left hip, and draw a few circles with your right knee here, changing the direction. Drawing big circles, and let's square the hips, look ahead of us, and step the right foot between the hands. Come up, Warrior 2. Virabhadrasana 2. Reaching way ahead of us, and bring the right hand somewhere in front of the right foot, standing half moon pose. Either hold this pose or you can transition into the next level, holding your ankle behind you, including a back bend here. Press your tailbone forward and you can flex the quadriceps on the right side. Great. Let's bend the knee. Still holding the knee. Come up to standing. And here you can bring your heel towards your buttocks and extend the tailbone down. Breathe into your quadriceps. Great. Let's bring the knee into the rib cage. And grab the foot with both hands. Straighten the leg, either completely or just halfway. Extend the leg in front of you with no support, and we're gonna spin on the foot and take a big step back, coming onto the mat for plie squats. Toes are pointing out, knees are following the direction of the toes. And let's go for 20 plie squats. Make sure that each time you bend your knees, they are pointing in the direction of the toes. Don't open your toes all the way out if your knees are not gonna follow. Press equally into the inner and outer edges of your feet, lifting the arches of the feet here and spreading the toes. Keep your chest lifted. A few more reps. Move mindfully. At the top of the repetition, you can flex your quads. Great, and let's turn towards the back of the room. Bring your hands on the floor. Step back, plank, cobra. Pressing the toes down and back into downward facing dog. Drawing the belly in, coming back to our breath. Inhale, take your left leg up and draw a few big circles with your left knee. Bend your knee, drop the foot behind you, explore your limitations. Look ahead of you, step your left foot between your hands. Come up. Viratu, look ahead of you. Go a little deeper in your stance. Reach way ahead of you and bring the left hand in front of the left foot, standing half moon pose. Flex your right foot, pull the toes back in towards you and work to bring the right hip on top of the left hip. Keep lengthening the torso here. Either stay here or the next level is to reach behind you and grab your ankle or your foot. Press your tailbone down and your hip forward. Breathe into your hip flexor. And you can lower down in standing half splits, either holding the foot, or you can release it if this is impossible for you. And let's slowly come up to standing. Still holding the foot if you can, and extend the knee down, press your hip flexor, hips forward. Great, slowly bring your knee into your rib cage. See if you can grab your foot with both hands, otherwise with one hand. And let's bring the hands on the hips and extend the leg in front of us. Spinning on your standing foot, take again the position for plie squat. Let's come into a plie squat. This time we're gonna do heel raises, coming onto the toes. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's open the arms out and reach side to side, bringing the hand by the foot, same side foot. Keep lengthening your torso here and keep your knees steady. So your lower body is not moving here at all. You're just moving your upper body the way we would normally move here in side angle. Breathe. And let's bring the hands over the legs. Twist here, look over one shoulder, back to center, twist and look over the opposite shoulder, back to center. Hands on the floor. We're gonna lower the knees on the floor here, so double pat your mat and slowly bring one at a time your knees, the insides of your knees on the floor. Keep your calves parallel to each other and flex your feet. Pull your toes in, back, and just hold here. So the main thing here is not to bring your heels towards each other, but to keep the calves parallel to each other, so your calf and your leg is making a 90-degree angle. Double pad your mat or use something soft underneath your knees, because we're placing a lot of weight here on the inside of the knee, which is not comfortable for the knee if we're on hard surface. If you have knee injuries, skip this pose and you can do a happy baby pose on your back. Great. To begin to come out of this pose, walk your heels towards each other, keeping the knees apart. Come up, take a second, and bring your knees a little closer to each other, toes together. And whenever you're ready, you can bring your knees together or hip width apart. And lower down, child's pose. Great, slowly coming out of child's pose. Turn towards the front of your room. And let's bring the heels on the outside of the hips. Knees are hip width apart or together, and slowly begin to lower yourself down on your elbows and back on your back. You can reach your hands in above your head. Fingers wrapping and pressing the palms of the hands away from you. You can stretch your back, the back of your shoulder here, by pressing one hand across your chest at a time. And slowly begin to reverse the movements here, coming onto your elbows, onto your hands. And let's bring the heels together. Knees apart, child's pose. Inhale, coming out of child's pose, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg comes up, roll the right hip on top of the left hip, and drop the foot behind you, coming into Kamatkarasana, Wild Thing. Either stay in Wild Thing or you can transition into Chakrasana or Urdhva Dhanurasana, wheel pose, pressing the chest forward, slowly reversing the movement, coming into one-legged downward facing dog. Look ahead of you and lower your right leg on the floor in front of you. Flex your foot. Extend the tailbone down, and you can bring your heel either further away from you or closer to you, depending on your hip flexibility. Once you have found the place that is best for you, you can keep your ribcage lifted and lower down. Make sure your foot is flexing the entire time you're in pigeon. There is an external rotation in the right hip. We're possibly stretching, depending on your flexibility, the hip flexors on the left side, allowing for your breath to deepen, calmly inhaling through the nose, slowly exhaling through the nose, and softening the hip as you do that. Mindfully bringing softness, relaxation, suppleness, openness in your hip area. With each inhalation, lengthen the spine. With each exhalation, soften your belly, soften your rib cage more, soften the hip more. Allow all this tension to leave the hip and just dissolve into the earth. Slowly begin to walk your hands back in towards your hips. Reach back and grab your ankle here with your left hand. And you can go into a back bend. Great, let's bring the hands down on the floor, tuck your toes under, press back into downward facing dog. Draw a few circles with your right knee. And let's bring the right foot across from the body, coming into side plank, and then you can flip your hips over into one more wild thing pose. Great. Coming back down into downward facing dog. And let's inhale the left leg up, bringing the left hip on top of the right hip, lifting the knee high. Drop the heel behind you and transition into wild thing, dropping the left foot on the floor behind you. Either stay here or transition into wheel pose. Open the chest, pressing the heart forward. Extending the tailbone down towards the knees. And slowly reverse the movement. Coming back into downward facing dog on one leg. Look ahead of you and lower your knee down on the floor in front of you, preparing for pigeon on the left side. Open the chest, lift the rib cage away from your hips and slowly lower down, keeping the hips equal distance from the floor. Make sure here your right hip is not lifting far off the floor. It's at the same level that your left hip is at. Lower down, keep your spine elongated and breathe. Allowing your tension to dissolve as you exhale. variation of Ekapada Rajakapotasana, known as the mermaid pose. And release. Bring your hands down on the floor. Press back into one-legged downward facing dog. Draw a few circles with your left knee. Breathe into your hip, gradually opening the hip more and more as we move into our practice daily. And let's bring the left foot across from the body, side plank. Either stay here or turn your hips up, moving into wild thing. Great. And coming back down into downward facing dog. Alright, knees on the floor. Walk your hands in front of you. Press your palms down, fingertips down, and lower your chest, heart towards the floor. Continuing with the heart opening poses, back bends. Great. Let's go into a modified forward bend, child's pose after this back bend. Allow your shoulders to drop. Come back to your breath. Great. Look ahead of you. Clasp your hands and prepare for headstand here. If you're familiar with headstands, otherwise you can stay in child's pose and work on your ujjayi breath. Otherwise, lifting into a headstand. Variation of a headstand, you can split your legs open and slowly lower your legs down, wide-legged, forward bend. Great, we're going to prepare for another variation of a headstand. So bring your knees on top of your triceps in crow's pose and just lower your head down on the floor, tripod headstand, and lift your legs up, coming into a tripod headstand. You can stay longer here or you can go into child's pose and rest. And slowly come up to seated, sitting on our heels only if this is comfortable for you, otherwise you can sit in Sukhasana. Bring your hands over your heart and let's come back to the intention of this practice to allow the heart to be open and gentle. And let's bring the hands over the third eye and say a prayer for all our loved ones, all our friends, relatives, acquaintances, co-workers, our community, for all our nemesis and all our enemies. May all their days be blessed with love and awakened compassion. And you can lower your chest onto your legs, sealing this prayer in. Holding it in your heart for the rest of the day or week. And come back to the beginning of this class. Bring your memory back to the beginning of this class, to the first child's pose we did. And notice the difference of your state of mind and feelings at the very beginning, first child's pose of the class, and now just observe, no judgment. And allowing yourself to accept your state of mind and feelings at the moment as the perfect place for you at this very moment without judging it or criticizing yourself. Just allow yourself to accept the perfection of this very moment. You can stay here for as long as you need to, or you can transition into Shavasana and just stay present, observing your breath, observing, listening to the sound of your heart beating, being compassionate, gentle, open, loving, authentic with yourself, and then extending this same feeling out towards all your loved ones. Namaste.